So now that we're in the file here, the very first thing that I want to do just to kind of clear off my plate is I want to take care of the borrower's intent to proceed or continue. Something very, very simple for us to do. There's several ways that you can do it within the file. Typically, I like to go to the 2015 itemization. Usually takes a few moments for it to upload here. There's a lot of content on here that gets loaded in. So once I do that, I go to my LE1, and you'll see right here the intent to proceed. So essentially what we want to do is just check off that box. Now, this file is locked, right? So when you have the new pop-up window here, you're going to want to use the most recent. So in this particular instance, we're going to use that LE that was sent out by secondary. So we're going to use this most recent one right here, right? I guess this was done the other day. So all we're going to do is just click OK. Then when we're all set with that, our receive method, we're going to choose one. I usually just use phone. It's the easiest. Next that I look at is I actually go ahead and take a look at the file itself, right? What are we doing here? Is this a refi? Is it a purchase? Streamline? Like, what is it? So I just usually go to my loan summary, which is a quick caption of the file. And I can see here that this is a conventional no cash out refi. I got my loan amount here. I got the borrower's names. I got present address, mailing address. I got all that good stuff, right? Now, I'm going to assume that Mark took a really good application here, so I'm not going to really have to make any changes, but it's really good practice to kind of review your 1003, the full 1003 that is, and just make sure that all the fields that should have been done by the LO are in fact completed. And anything that is not, then we need to make sure that we get addressed. Obviously here in Encompass, it's coded very well, and all these fields that are required are blued. So there shouldn't be any reason for us to miss anything. We might have some errors with the address, maybe borrower's name, date of birth, social security. It's more clerical stuff. That's easy stuff to fix. So we just want to make sure that information is in fact accurate. So now that I have the meat and potatoes of the file, I want to actually go ahead before I start uploading conditions and QCing the file and scrubbing the file. I want to open up my E folder and just take a quick gander of our disclosures, right? We want to make sure that the disclosures are in fact in the file. There have been times where a file maybe was handed off to a processor and the LO maybe didn't retrieve those disclosures. So we want to make sure that the file is in fact ready for underwriting. Not only with the disclosures, but also with the initial submission documents as well. So just a quick look, usually these pictures here with the disclosures, usually that means that the disclosures are in and they've been imported or they've been retrieved. For whatever reason, if they haven't been retrieved and these buckets are blank, what we want to do is just click on this retrieve tab. And in that retrieve tab, you'll have all these disclosures listed like this, right? So when they're listed like this and they're not imported, all you got to do is just click on this download button. It'll take about a minute for everything to import itself, and then you're good to go. So just please be mindful of that. We want to make sure that files are being submitted with disclosure signed by the borrower or the borrower is listed on the file. Next, what I want to do is take a look at the buckets that are created in addition to the disclosure. So as you can see right here, we have bank statements in here. We got current mortgage statement. We got pay stubs, W-2s. We got all these initial documents that are required by underwriting already in the file already. So right off the bat, I already know I don't have to create any new documents, right? Now, it's a different story if you have like a credit explanation letter, maybe an LOX, access letter, something. Sorry about that, guys. Apparently, when I get phone calls, it cancels me out of the meeting. Very weird. So we have all of our initial, document checklist here coded in already. So I already know that I don't actually have to go ahead and create new documents, right? So if I have a consumer explanation, asset letter, something like that, Obviously, we're going to have to create a new document, but the initial document checklist and processing manager, we know for sure it's in the file already. So we don't have to create duplicate buckets, right? And what I mean by the processing manager checklist, we access that by going to the Forms tab, Processing Services, and then once this loads up, it usually takes a second, we have the processing manager. Okay, so all these documents are required from an initial aspect for underwriting to give us our approval, right? So these are already in the file. So next, I'm going to start scrubbing the file and the documents that were provided by the loan officer assistant or the loan officer themselves. So to my understanding, you guys utilize this file manager bucket here, and we have a whole bunch listed right here, right? I'll get to the assets last once we're all done with the income calc, so we can properly make sure that we're not going over our allowable limit. Obviously, this is conventional, so 50% of our gross monthly income. We want to make sure that we're not going over that in terms of the large sum deposits. Anything that's over that 50% threshold here, we will need to source those deposits, especially if these assets are required for closing. So I'm just going to quickly jump ahead here. We have our Social Security card, which is very beat up, but we have our Social Security card. So we want to throw this into the borrower identification bucket that's already pre-coded in here, right? So all we can do from the unassigned bucket, we can go ahead and just drag and drop down into the corresponding bucket, right? Now we have that listed in there. Next, we have our driver's license, which I do see we have this in here. We just take a quick look at this information. Everything looks to be okay here. It's not expired. I'm going to assume if I take a look at our addresses on the file, everything does match up, in which case it does. I'll move this back over here. We can see the address does match up to the present address. So we're good with that. So there shouldn't be any discrepancies with this driver's license. We're going to move this into the borrower ID bucket as well, right? We'll get back to the driver's license in a second. We'll show you guys how to go ahead and complete your Patriot Act form. But for the time being, we're just going to jump along and continue on putting our conditions in the file here. Next, we're just going to scroll down the list. We have our current mortgage statement. We have that right here. I usually just take a quick gander at this, right? We want to make sure that there aren't any deferred payments on the mortgage, right? Any deferments, we kind of need to get that addressed. You know, underwriting is going to catch that. So I take a look at if there's any deferred payments, if they're late fees, right? You'll have late fees in here too. Obviously, in the fee section here, we have zeros, so we know that he hasn't missed any mortgage payments. Obviously, our credit report will indicate that as well. But naturally, that information should be reporting on the current mortgage statement. So this all seems good to me. We got our property address, got our borrower's name. We look pretty good here on this statement, right? I don't see anything deferred. So we can go ahead and attach this to our file here. So once again, we're going to select it and just drag and drop down to the current mortgage statement bucket.
Hey, Vince, can I jump in for a second?
Absolutely.
The most important thing on that statement that you're looking at is the escrows. I'm assuming this is a refi, right? All right. This will tell you. Let me back up. If this was a mortgage statement and it wasn't the subject property, then make sure you look at the escrows here, because I see a lot of things where you don't have escrows here, and the branch didn't go out and even have taxes or insurance in there. So if this was not the subject property, please check the escrows. Okay.
Thanks, Keith. And good point, by the way. Thank you. Next, we're going to move along here, and we have our pay stubs. Now, we're going to have Keith go ahead and take care of the income calc portion of it. So we're just going to go ahead and just drag and drop in here, but we'll come back to these a little bit later on in this presentation here. So I see here we have the most recent one, and then we have the last pay stub of 2020 as well. So we're going to go ahead and click on control, and then we're going to click that latest pay stub. You can select multiple in here, and then drag and drop to the corresponding bucket. Now, as you can see, we have the last pay stub of 2020 as being the most recent in the file, and then we have the most recent as the last document. So to go ahead and change that order, we're going to go ahead and double click on our bucket itself. We're going to click on the most recent one that we have, and we're just going to use this arrow right here, and we're going to move this guy up, right? So that moves it up in the stacking order for the pay stubs. So when an underwriter does go in here and reviews the pay stubs, they can see the most recent, or at least the one that we have most recent, first, right? Assuming this is the one that we're going to be using for our income count, which we're going to eventually. So it's just good practice to make sure that your most recent documents are always at the top, whether it's your bank statements, whether it's your pay stubs, you know, anything like that, even VOEs, right? There might be a time where you have a VOE in there, and your verbal VOE that's dated as such, and then maybe it expires. You want to make sure that you're on checking it as current, and then obviously keeping the one that you pulled at the top, right? We don't need any additional information if we don't need it, right? Any questions so far? No? Okay, great. Next, we have our W-2s in here. Once again, we're just going to hit Control, click on that 2020, and then drag and drop into the corresponding bucket. Once again, they're out of order here, so we're going to want to make sure that we're moving the 2020 to the top. I go into these W-2s and I just kind of check if there's any decline in income, you know, which I don't really see there being the case here. Let's see. No, there aren't any declining wages here. That's something I always look at. Obviously, an underwriter, when they do review it, that's something that they're going to pick on as well. You know, sometimes there actually was a decline in income. Sometimes maybe we're missing a W-2, excuse me. Maybe he has another job that we weren't aware of. Maybe he switched jobs. So maybe that is the reason why the wages are lower for that employer. So it's always good to kind of, take a quick look at the wages here to make sure there aren't any declining wages being listed. Okay, so this guy looks pretty good here.
Also, check the mailing address. It's a good way to check out the mail. You know, if it's a 2019, or now they're coming out, right? We're getting 2020 W-2s, right? Yep. We're going to be getting them anyway. If the 2020 W-2 has a different mailing address than the borrower's current address on a refi, we have a huge red flag, and most underwriters are going to catch that. So please take a look at the mailing address and make sure it matches what they said on their 1003 page 1.
And we see that it is matching here, right? We got 38 Old Indian, 38 Old Indian. Okay. Next, we have our SSA form, which I do see that we are missing that second page. Technically speaking, this is not a complete disclosure, as there are 2 pages to this. There is a quick fix for this. I'm going to drag and drop this guy in here. And to get the second page, I'm going to go ahead and click on the Print Forms tab. I'm going to go to my standard forms, go to my verifications, and then I'm going to just drag and drop the SSA 89 in here. I'm going to add that to the E folder. It usually takes a few seconds as well while it prepares the form and what have you.
So can I just say that I never put the second page in, and now I know that it's needed. So I actually go into a file after I send my clients the disclosures, and I print the SSA form and I attach and send it to him so he doesn't have to do it through the system. Some clients like to just print it out themselves and sign it and send it back to me. Now that I know that I need it, the second one, I will always use the second one as well, so you guys don't have to do the extra work. I just always thought, since there was nothing on it, we didn't need it. But I don't want to make you guys do extra work either, so I will make sure that that's done.
just to address that, Mark, in further detail, the reason why we want 2 pages is because, God forbid there are any issues with the social security number, there's an alert or anything like that. When you go to order the SSN validation with 1 page, it'll kick it back. It'll
Gotcha.
say your page 2 is missing. So even post-closing, say if there's an issue and the investor is wanting to do their SSA validation on their end, they're going to want that second page too, because they're going to get the same error message as us. It's going to get kicked back. So it's just important for us to make sure that we have those pages listed in there.
Good.
Okay, so we have this second one that we pulled in here. It's an unassigned. I just go to my second page here. I just select it. I'm going to scroll down to the SSA, and I'm going to drag and drop to the folder. Right now, obviously they're separated here. It's obviously one disclosure. So typically, what I do is just I go in here and I just move it up like this to the first document. And I just move it to merge with the other SSA that we have signed. All right, so now we have a full completed SSA form in the file. Okay, next, I do see we have our consumer explanation letter in here. Taking a quick look at it, I know, Mark, we touched on this a little bit earlier before. We do have some addresses in here. Keith, you can further elaborate on this, but making sure that the address fields are listed with explanations. Can you just speak further into that and why that may be required?
Well, I don't. I'm getting some feedback in somebody. I gotta confess, as an underwriter, I don't ask for these unless I see something, an address on LoanSafe. However, you all know that you will have underwriters condition you for it to be addressed here as well, so you may as well go ahead and do it. All right. I know Fannie doesn't require address explanations if they're obvious or if they're over 2 years old. All right. If they're less than 2 years or if there's something weird, I'll grab it. But I'm never looking usually here. I'm usually looking on LoanSafe because LoanSafe gives me a better address. Having said that, I know that most of the underwriters here at Absolute will condition you for this, and it is possible that maybe some of our investors want it. So go ahead and have the borrowers do it. If you're going to send the borrowers this form, right, and they're going to fill out the other parts of it, why the hell not fill this out too, right? So I'd go ahead and get it to save yourself a possible condition.
Thanks, Keith. So where we put this document, guys, is if you guys aren't doing it already, please make sure that you are putting it in the credit explanation bucket that we have in here. So when I go to my C section here, I'll see credit explanation. I can create that document, and I can just drag and drop this in there, right? So we're good. Next, I'm going to take a quick look at my processing manager just to see what we've accomplished and what else we are missing. So here we're missing our homeowners insurance, bank statements we have, which we're going to address in a little bit, along with the income calc. We got our findings, USPS, appraisal, which we're going to run our AUS to see if we have that PIW. And that's about it. And obviously the other services too, right? Your transcripts, your flood, and your fraud. So I'm just going to take a quick look here to see if we have our findings.
Hey, Vince, can I ask, one of the things that I always I preach and is the loan story and both the loan story and the conversation log. Do you not really entertain looking at a conversation log when you get a file from your loan officers when you're processing a file? Because you just hit on something like the appraisal. So this is an appraisal waiver. You'll see there's an appraisal waiver on this, and so I write appraisal waiver, order title, and then I put the loan, and then I put it in. Do you not look at it?
So that's a great question, Mark. So, we're supposed to be utilizing the loan story, right? I mean, processors are supposed to be making those notes to underwriters, right? However, not every underwriter is reviewing the loan story. So there might be certain notes in there that you're providing an underwriter or whomever, and they're missing it because they're not viewing the loan story. So if you want to continue to do that and your staff likes using that loan story feature so you can bring them up to date as to what's going on in the file, please continue to do that.
Oh no, I'm mandating that they use it because
Okay,
it helps me when I look at a file as well. And I say this with all due respect. It's there to be used. An underwriter
Right.
should look at it. An underwriter should be mandated to look at it.
Some of them do and some of them don't. I'll be
No?
honest with you. There's no rhyme or reason why they don't look at it, but I know that's the case because there's been times that I've been brought onto email saying, hey, like we wrote you something in Loan Story, addressing what you're conditioning, and here we are having that condition, right? It turns out that they didn't review that Loan Story, so. There's no rhyme or reason. They've been told to get better and utilizing the loan story, but definitely continue to use it on your guys' front. It definitely helps, right?
Okay.
Another feature that they have been using that Keith can even speak to as well is the comment section too, right? So obviously we're going to address the initial branch submission in a second. So we'll take a look at something else here. So like our pay stubs, right? Actually, let's go to our W-2s. There's a comment section for on every single bucket, right? So you can go ahead and add comments on certain things that maybe you need to be shedding some light on, right? So I don't know what we want to put in here for W2 bucket, but straight salary W2 employee, right? And we're just gonna put that in there. We're gonna click send alert and then utilize the underwriter, right?
You're not going to want to keep that because he's not a straight salary, so you're not going to want to keep that in there.
Right.
We used only his base salary. He makes a ton of money on bonus and other things for Facebook. So, but we only used his straight salary.
Right. I gotcha.
Okay.
So with the comments, you can just add whatever you like in there, send an alert over to the underwriter, and they'll see it. The condition itself or the bucket itself will be in bold. Now they've been doing that on resubs too, but that can also be done on the front end as well. Keith, can you confirm that that you like that comment feature? It's something that brings your eyes to a certain condition or item in the file.
Yeah, I love the comment feature. It has only been used on resubs. No one has ever used it on a new loan. Now, keep in mind, I only do the USDA, so people might be doing it now. But absolutely, and that's as you're flying through a loan, I tend to be guilty of this too. I'll be going through a loan, and I'll say, okay, I have that, I don't have that, I have that, I don't have that. And if everything on that loan looks fine, it's very likely that I'm guilty. I might not look at the loan story because everything looks fine, right? But maybe everything's not fine. Maybe there's something there, and I'm probably guilty of occasionally not looking at the loan story either because I think everything's fine. Now, obviously, if there's a problem on the loan, I'll go look at the loan story to see if there was a comment, or I'll look in the conversation log to see if there was a comment. But I think putting a comment in the document is fine. I also like some processors will put a Word doc in the folder, right? Like say there's a problem with assets, right? Or there's a funky story about the assets. I've had processors take a Word doc and stick it into the asset folder, right? And there's a long letter there about the assets. That's fine too. That's definitely going to get the underwriter's attention, right? So definitely, I think those are the two best ways to get the underwriter's attention. In a digital world where we never see the other person that we're working with, you need to use those little tricks to get their attention.
Thanks, Keith. So continuing on here, we have some services that we need to go ahead and order, right? We have our 411s, we have USPS, we got transcripts, all that kind of good stuff. So we'll do that right now. We're going to go ahead and open up our web browser. Right here, it's on one of my other screens. So we'll do the USPS search first. You can just type in USPS lookup, and there's a whole bunch. I usually just go to this one right here. And then where it says city, state, zip code, I'm going to go ahead and click on that, right? On this screen here, we're going to do by address. Move this over here so I can just read what we have on our application. I'm going to type in this address. It's pretty self-explanatory in regards to the fields. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and click search on that. And as we can see, the address that we typed in here does match our 1003. It is a valid mailing address. There are certain times, depending upon the state, town and what have you, there might be like certain like sub towns, if you will, that have different mailing addresses, right? Like I know in Manalapan, let's say in Monmouth County, you might have Englishtown, but it's really Manalapan or vice versa, right? You might have those certain instances. So we want to make sure that we do have the most accurate mailing address listed on our file. It's very, very important. Obviously, you guys have seen that with a bunch of your COCs that you've requested. So I'm glad that you guys are picking up on that. But to get this into our file here, we have a very easy trick that we like to utilize here. You can go ahead and just do Control P. And then from here, you can go ahead and print to Encompass. If you don't have Encompass eFolder listed here, it should be available on all your web browsers. You just go to Show All or See More, and you should have a whole bunch of options that you can choose from. Encompass eFolder should be in there. So once you select that, you're going to go ahead and click Print. It's going to ask you to log in. And here you can just enter in the file name itself. I just type in USPS lookup. Double click on our file. Now we have this bucket already created in here, so we can just scroll down to where it is and go ahead and click continue. Now, sometimes Encompass isn't like interacting with third parties. Sometimes when you utilize this feature, you'll get this error message, right? So I'm glad that it did pop up so we can address it. All you got to do is just redo it. It takes another couple seconds out of your day to go do that. All you got to do is just redo it, and it should populate into the file. Okay. We have this message stating that it's been successfully uploaded. So when we go to our eFolder, you can go ahead and take a look, and you'll see that USPS lookup is in fact in the file, right? So we're good with that. You guys have any questions regarding that, or everyone okay? Good? Okay. Next, we're going to go in and pull in our 411s. I do this on every single file. It's just a force of habit. It could be a little extra work, but I'm sure the underwriter does appreciate it, making sure that we confirm the address of the employer. So I'm going to go ahead and just take a look at where he is, Facebook. I'm going to type in that address, assuming that there isn't like a local employer location. I don't know if he's a remote worker or if there is an address in New York City or Jersey City that he works out of. I don't know that. There might be further information on our written verification of employment, but for the time being, we're going to go ahead and just search up their HQ over in California. Oops. Let me make this bigger. So you can literally just print this screen here, right? You don't actually have to go to Facebook's website, go to the contact page or anything like that. You can go ahead and utilize the Google business page here. So once again, like I showed you before, we're gonna go ahead and print this to the file. Once again, label it. Now we don't have a 411 bucket here, but we're gonna add it to the unassigned. Then we go back to our E folder, we go to our file manager. You can go ahead and create the document itself. Obviously it's labeled as 411, it's the first one there. And we're gonna drag and drop into that corresponding bucket.
So Vince, here's an interesting thing that you might want to know about this file that if you came across as a processor, I wouldn't know what to do. So on my original 1003 that I sent to him, Instagram is owned by Facebook. He told me he worked for Instagram and gave me the address of Instagram out in San Francisco. When I saw his W-2 and his pay stubs, Facebook was on it. I asked him, and he said, well, Facebook owns it, so I work for Instagram. So I changed the 1003 in our system for Facebook, because that's what my W-2s and my pay stubs have. Yet my 1003 that he received and signed says Instagram. Is there any? Do we need to do anything else about that?
So Keith, you can chime in too on this one. I usually, because look, that happens not all the time, but it happens sometimes where you have those instances. I usually address it in the actual VOE section as well. I can always put Facebook, Instagram in there. Keith, when you underwrite, how do you typically handle those situations when you see a company that maybe owns, it's like a parent company, if you will?
Yeah, I usually try to work it out myself. I don't try to bother the branch. I have no problem if someone can mute themselves. We're getting feedback. I usually have no problem figuring it out. Sometimes I might go to the internet and search it. If you want to do that, I mean, we all know about Facebook and Instagram, but it may be two different companies that we've never heard of. It might be a small business that owns another small business. We have that. In the case of Facebook and Instagram, I would probably just put on the 10. I would change the 1003. To Mark's question, the actual 1003 doesn't have to match the handwritten 1003 because I now know that the person paying him, even though he works for Instagram, the person who writes his paycheck is Facebook. So I have no problem changing that 1003 to Facebook, right? Even though he put Instagram on there, I have no problem because that's what processing is for. Processing is to get the more correct data, and that's fine. Where you have a problem is when you have two totally different company names, right? And they're smaller companies, no one's ever heard of them. That's when you got to go do what Vince just showed you. I go do a Google search to try to see if I can find a relationship between those two companies. Now, as an underwriter, I'll probably spend 5 minutes doing that. If I can't, then I'm going to slap a condition on you. All right. So as a processor or a loan officer, go ahead and save the underwriter the trouble. If it's not obvious and you have different names, go to do what Vince is doing right now and go find a web page that links the two companies. Print out the web page and stick it in the income folder. Income miscellaneous is probably the best place for it.
Thanks, Keith. Okay, next we've addressed that. We're going to continue on here and doing our services. I utilize TQL services to order two, right? I do my transcripts through there and I do my flood through there. Fraud I do through the services tab. So usually when I click on that, it takes a few minutes for it to upload here. So we have our 4506Ts, right? We noticed here that we don't have any orders. So we're going to go ahead and click on that order button here. We want to make sure that this information is in fact matching the most recent tax document we have here. So obviously we have our W-2s here. So we're going to take a quick look, and obviously we have the addresses matching up. There have been times where transcript order requests have been requested, and you might get something back saying that the addresses are incorrect. And then when you take a look at your most recent tax document, whether it's a tax return or a W-2, you'll notice that the addresses listed on the order form and on the tax document itself are not correct, right? So you might get that kickback. I'm sure you guys have seen that in the past. Just please be mindful of that. It's real easy to kind of overlook. And then take a look at the transcript request itself to make sure that we have our W-2s listed, 1040s, all that kind of good stuff. We do see that it is correctly filled out, and I'm going to assume it is signed too. So once we want to go order it, we're just going to click on that order 4506T button. We're going to click on the paperclip, and then where it says browse from eVault, we know that we can go and access that 4506T that was sent out to the borrower in the initial disclosure process. If we maybe got an updated one, or it's wet signed and it's maybe in File Center or somewhere else, you're going to want to go ahead and browse accordingly that way as well, right? Either you can pull it in from File Center, or if it's a wet signed document and it's an e-folder, you're going to have to utilize this method. The e-signed vault is specifically for documents that were e-signed and sent out to the borrower. So we're going to go ahead and scroll down. As we can see here, we have our transcript request form. We're going to click on that. Okay, so I normally, this is as a force of habit, because I've had issues in the past actually, where things have popped up. I always order my 1040s and my W-2s. Now, do I always utilize my 1040s if I know it's a W-2 only file? No, but there has been times in the past where something's popped up and they've owned the business or something like that we later found out where now we need the transcripts, right? Something the underwriter sees that we need to verify with the transcripts or with the tax returns, but we have it on file already. We don't actually have to use it, but I just order it just to have it. So I'm going to go ahead and request those. Usually takes a few moments for this to go ahead and carry through here as it's communicating with CoreLogic's server. Okay, they were sent successfully. Now, we can always do check status. Obviously, this is how you pull them in, right? When you do get that alert saying that your 4506T order was completed, whether it's for your W-2s or your 1040s, when you need to go pull them in, you just got to click on the check status, and it'll automatically import itself. And those two buckets, or those buckets that, whatever you ordered, were created in an e-folder, right? So right here, obviously, they're still pending. And you can see now, if we take a look at our e-folder, you can go ahead and see that our 1040s have been ordered, and we also have our W-2s ordered, right? Now, when they do come back in, typically what I do, and usually they're not always in the file before an underwriter gives us an approval, but when we are conditioned for those transcripts and they're in the file, I just double click on it, and I literally just relabel it income tax transcripts, and then I mark the condition. Just as a quick heads up there. Let me get rid of this on here. Okay. Next, I'm going to go back to my TQL services, where I'm going to order my flood certificate. Once again, I'm going to click on that order button. And this is a quick, click of the button, right? So order type, new, and then flood products, always choose life of loan. I wish we could just get rid of all these other ones, but we always need to pull the life of loan. So just check that one off. and click order. Okay, so that our results in, and we can see that it is not in a flood zone. Anything that is not in an X flood zone, right? So AE or anything like that, you know right off the bat, we need to get this second page signed and acknowledged, right? So please be mindful of that. You can always pick up on it. And also, when it comes to the flood zone too, if you notice, all right, well, I only have homeowners insurance, but this flood certificate's indicating that it is in a flood zone, and I don't have my flood insurance policy. You know that you need to request that, right? Or if it's a purchase, you know that you need to tell them, hey, you know, this property is in fact in a flood zone. We need to go ahead and get flood insurance, right? So just be mindful of that. Just take a quick look. It only takes a few seconds to really figure out what you need to do here. Next, we're going to want to pull our fraud and audit services, and we do this in our services tab. We're going to scroll down and go to order fraud and audit services. We're going to select this middle one here where it says fraud manager. And this is a real simple one. All you got to do is just click order.
While he's ordering that, guys, just to an update, Jessica was looking at a file and looked at the fraud manager. I looked at the fraud manager, looked at the fraud guard, saw that there was a foreclosure that looked like 2016. Client said it was 2013. It was 2016. That loan would have went to underwriting, would have been denied, would have wasted everybody's time. So that was awesome. And that's more of the things we need to be doing.
And yeah, great job. You know, that's huge. I mean, this is really an overlooked service order, I feel. You know, a lot of processors, from what I have seen or come across with, is they just order it and that's it, right? And typically, you know, if it's something easy like that, I'd say, yeah, go for it. You know, order it and forget about it. But this fraud report does have a lot of information that's very, very useful, right? So your foreclosures, your bankruptcies, stuff like that. That's all on this fraud report. So if you can pick up on that information, it's huge, right? You can save a lot of people's time, whether it's your own time, the underwriter's time, obviously the LO's time too, and the borrower's time. It just saves a lot of time if you just quickly run through it and just go to the certain areas that you need to go to, to see if it's even a viable loan, or even pick up any conditions that you might see from an underwriter, right? Like right here for the SSN, if we get a failed search or an alert for the SSN, you know right off the bat, all right, well, I need to go validate my SSA, right? I need to go submit that to CoreLogic and get that validated, because I'm going to get conditioned on that. I have not ever seen a condition, I've never seen a fraud report without a condition with an alert listed to the SSN. I've always seen a condition in there for a processor to validate the social security number when there is an alert or a failed search. Same thing with the SAM.gov. I mean, I've seen some underwriters, condition for the GSA lookup on a borrower because this is a failed search or it did come up as an alert. So just taking a quick look at that information here is huge because you can save yourself some conditions, right? Next, you can go ahead and take a look at subject property analysis, right? Foreclosure in past 3 years. Obviously, this is a quick look at the property, but you can go ahead and really, take a look at everything that's going on with the property itself, right? So you'll have like your notice of default in here or foreclosure, anything like that. That'll all be listed in here, right? Keith, did you want to address anything else with the fraud outside of the SSN and the foreclosures and stuff like that?
Well, in general, no. The other thing you want to look at, and I alluded it to before, remember you asked on the credit, do you have a address? Do you have explanation of addresses? As you go down further in there, you'll see a complete address history for the borrower. You'll see where they owned, where they rented. That's where I trust that as more gospel, and I'll look for stuff there. But I think, Vince, you and I had talked. We might do a quick training, one of these meetings, just on how I look at the fraud report. There is a very quick way to get through this. And let me just tell you, we'll do it in the training and I'll show you, but over 50% of everything on here is stuff you do not have to look at. And the reason I say that is because over 50% of the stuff that's on here has to do with the appraisal, right? And you're gonna go by the appraisal. You're not going to go by this. Okay, so maybe it's not 50%, maybe 30% of this you don't have to look at, because at least 30% of that fraud report has to do with the appraisal, and I think a full 30% of it has to do with comps, right? So unless you have an issue with the value of your appraisal, you're not going to want to look at the 75 comps that just gave you. So we're going to do a training on this, and I'll show you how to go through that quickly and look at the pages that are most important to look at. Those are the pages that are going to sink you, right, in underwriting. Those are the pages that an underwriter is going to look at. All right, so we'll do that as a separate training. We won't do it now, but yeah, you hit the highlights in the first part for sure.
Thanks, Keith. So when we finish pulling that fraud report in, and you'll see right here, when we go to the fraud and audit services bucket, you'll see that report is in fact in here, right? So please just make sure that is the case on all your files. I've had a few times where these didn't load in for some odd reason, so I had to pull it again. So please just be mindful of that. It has happened in the past. Next, what we want to do is I'll go back to our processing manager, and we'll kind of just see the remaining items here. We have our bank statements, which are obviously in file manager. We'll get to that here shortly. We have our credit report invoice appraisal, which Mark had alluded. There is an appraisal waiver. So we're going to show you guys how to exit that guy out here and remove it from the required document list. And then that's pretty much, and our writtens too. So let's take care of our written right now. We'll show you how to order the work number through Encompass. So essentially what we want to do is go to our services tab, then go to order verifications. And you'll see here, you can do your SSN validation through here, right? We'll show you that next, but we'll do the work number first. So here, your login should be superimposed in here. If you guys have not used this, usually you put your username and password in, save the login information, and once you complete your first order, everything should be okay, right? It'll save itself in there. So I believe I had to have my password reset because there was some sort of issue with my account. So let me just put that in here like so. The report is obviously on the borrower. There's no other borrowers on the file. So we're gonna order it for this guy here, and then employment plus income, and then current employers for obviously the current employer. Oh my goodness. One sec. Okay, so we ordered it successfully here, and it should be in your verifications bucket. Obviously, when you order it, it'll automatically pull it up in the services view. And obviously, we have our income calc here. We have obviously bonuses that Mark mentioned that we're not using, and some other pay as well. Our work number verifications of employment accurate or good? Sometimes they are, but a lot of times they aren't. Sometimes they don't break down the income the way we need to see it in terms of, from an underwriting standpoint or just even calculate income. So please be mindful of that. I've seen like differential pay for like police officers, nurses, or something like that not being properly calculated. So when you do see these results for those types of borrowers, it may not be the most accurate. Keith, if you want to speak a little bit further on that as well, please do so.
Yeah, sure. I know some of you have been in the income training, I think from last week. These work number VOEs are notoriously inaccurate. Okay. Sometimes they're very helpful, and sometimes they're helpful because I can actually use them in place of a pay stub. But no, generally speaking, they tend to notoriously be inaccurate. So again, in this case, what we have here, we have bonus here, obviously. So, and I think Mark said he was not relying on bonus to qualify. But if we need a bonus to qualify, we have it. It's decreasing, but not too much, so we need to qualify. But again, I always look at this first, and we'll probably go over this a little later. I look at this first, but I compare it to my pay stub because I want to make sure that it's accurate.
Cool. Thanks, Keith. So when we take a look at the folder itself and where it actually goes, when you go to the E folder, you'll see that your VOE is now in a verifications bucket, right? We do not want it in a verifications bucket. We want this in the VOE bucket. So obviously we have one here coded in. So for us, we want to just go to our file manager, expand this verifications bucket, and essentially just drag and drop into the written VOE bucket, right? I'm going to blow this up. Once you get this information in here, it's really important that we make sure that we update, the VOE section accordingly, right? We want to make sure that that information is accurate. We have our start dates, our end dates. If there's any prior employers, we have our end dates in there as well, just so we have our full 2 years of work history. So I'm going to move that to my other screen for a hot second. Now, I like to utilize the show all forms function and go to my VOE, because when I do that, I'm still able to move around and navigate within the file, right? So if I go to the 1003 and I click on the show all VOE, that window will pop up, but everything else is locked out, right? So if you forget to maybe bring something up on a second screen, or if you need to scroll further down, you won't be able to do that through the show all function. So I usually go to the VOE section and forms and input my information that way. So I can see here that we're a little off in terms of the date for the start date. So I'm going to go ahead and just put that information in there correctly. And we're good to go, right? Also, we want the job title too to be accurate. Head of music, partnerships. You can leave head of music. You can add partnerships. I'll add partnerships in there. And we can continue on with the rest of the file. Any questions on that by any chance? No? Okay, cool. Okay, next, I mentioned before the SSN validation. So the same way we ordered our work number, we can go to the verifications, click SSN confirm. Same thing here. You're going to have to log in. Now, we already have this in the file, right? So we can browse from the Encompass E folder. We can scroll down and we can find our form. We've attached it. All we got to do is just click order. And this one's not working on me either. Awesome. I think this is the one that was reset. Anyway, so yeah, when you do go in here, I'll just go back to it. I won't be able to log it. I don't want to waste your guys' time with me trying to, troubleshoot that. So you go to attach SSA, encompass E folder, you find your SSA, double click, and then you click order, right? Usually that order comes back within 30 minutes to an hour. And essentially what you want to do once everything's logged and you want to import that in, you should get an email once it's complete. You go to the check status, you'll have an order listed here, just select it. And then where it says check status, click on that. It'll import it into the file. Once again, just like the work number verification of employment, it'll be in a verifications bucket. So typically what I do is I just double click it and then I go to my drop down and I go to SSA verification. And if I have my file approved already, it's probably going to be conditioned for, in which case you'd attach your condition. If not, if it's prior to the approval, you can just leave it as such and the underwriter will pick that up when they do their review of the file. Okay, next, I'm going to turn this over to Keith now so he can button up the rest of the file, get the income dialed in, and then we can finish our review.
Okay, great. As far as the income, Vince, I can, if you want me to do the worksheet, you can give me control. Can you open up a blank worksheet? I can do it on yours.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
I did add one into
Open up
the
a blank
file,
worksheet.
so you could comment on that
Okay.
one for me too, Keith.
Okay, we can do that too. All right. So yeah, if you can just, if it's in the file, but the one in the file is going to be in PDF. So Vince, if you can just open up an Excel, I said right there.
Yeah, I just wanted you to comment on it because this one was
Okay, I will.
a little
Gotcha.
weird.
Yeah. Okay, great. That's great. Yeah, and that'll be down below. Good. Okay, good. And now I have control. Great. Okay. So I'm going to approach this. I've never seen this file before. So I'm going to drop that for now right down there. I think we can close that. And I'm going to show you what I do. And the first thing I do when I go look at my income is I will go to my 1003. All right. And I'm just going to get familiar with who I have, what they're doing. Obviously, you'll already know that. But 1003 page 1. Okay. Sorry, I set it up this way. Again, everybody likes Encompass a different way, which you're familiar with. All right, so we have somebody who works for Facebook. I'm always going to go here. I'm going to double check. I'm going to make sure there's no other blanks in here. Lots of times the branches will leave other income entries here that are incomplete. Get rid of those, please, okay? They can actually mess up your AUS and put additional conditions on your AUS. So please make sure there's nothing extraneous here, okay? I'm going to click down. I'm going to look for my start date. Number one, I have a date hired. Vince already went over. He compared that to his VOE. That's fine. We've got my 2-year work history. I've got my 2 years on the job, and I know I'm looking for someone who is non-self-employed working at Facebook. Bingo. Okay, so now this is really small. Let's see, where's your Encompass window? There it is. All right. Is that a new window, Vince, or an old window? Hang on.
That's the new window. I think we want to use this one right here.
Oh, okay. I didn't see that. Okay, let me close that one. I couldn't tell which one was which. Sorry. Okay, got it. This one's the one we want here. Okay, good. There we go. All right, I want to go over here to my, I guess that's my E folder. It's pretty small. There we go. All right. So I'm going to bring this over my file manager. I'm going to open up file manager, make it as big for everybody as I can. And then I go down to my VOE. Okay, open that up. I make it as big as I can. Come on, open up, open up. There we go. All right. So I'm going to scroll down here and I'm going to take a look. All right. And I'm going to just verify it on 121. I'm going to look at my verified date. Okay. So 121, and I'm going to look at my as of date. All right. So let me make this a little bit smaller. Let's go to 150 here. That helped a little bit. Okay. So we can see the whole thing. There we go. All right. Current as of 122. So 122, and the reason I use this is I also look at my year-to-date average here, and on this, my year-to-date average is going to be based on 122. So I know that this VOE is effective 121, but it's already projecting through 122. So this is how I'm going to do all my year-to-date averages on my VOE. And I always tend to look at that because I want to compare them to my pay stub, right? Okay. So I make sure he's active. I got my start date. We've already checked that with my 1003. All right. So we see that his rate of pay is 10,154 biweekly. All right, so this looks like a pretty easy one. Now that's his base. So I'm going to 10,154. Now I'm writing on my notes 17, and it's biweekly. Okay, that helps me a lot. All right, so I'm going to just punch that in real quick so I can get a number. So 10,154, and we'll put that into the calculator in a bit. So don't think I'm forgetting it, right? Times 26 divided by 12, and that's going to give me 20. Hold on. Yeah, 10,154.17 times 26 divided by 12, and that gives me $22,000 a month. Okay, pretty much with a penny or two on the end. All right. So I'm going to now look at my base salary for 20. Let's go 2021. We only have a week, one pay stub. I'm really going to look at 2020. And I'm just going to do a quick average base for 2020 in my mind here. And again, we'll do all this. And the reason I'm saying this is I may not want to put these numbers into my income calc. I may want to put my pay stub numbers into my income calc. So I'm not putting these into my income calc right away, okay? I'm actually writing them down. And there's a method to my madness because most of the time I'm going to use my pay stub numbers, okay? But I always check them to this. So I got my 261,839. I'm going to do a quick divided by 12, and that gives me 21,819 a month. All right. So I know that my year-to-date average was 21,819, and I also know that based on this right here, if I do my calculation, I'm making 22,000 currently. That's pretty darn close, and I don't have a problem with that discrepancy at all. All right, because there's probably a little bit of a raise in there. All right. And I'm just going to tuck these numbers on my little worksheet. And I'm actually going to lower this so I can look at it later on. And the other thing I'm taking a note of here is I do have bonus, okay, but I don't know if we're using bonus. So what I would normally do here is I would flip back over to my 1003, and I think we already said we weren't, but let me just go over here and double check. And I'm going to go to page 2. And lo and behold, we are not using bonus. We do not need bonus. We got a 27 back ratio. I love it. I don't want to use bonus unless I have to. Keep it simple, right? Less is more, all those other great phrases. So we're good here. All right, 22,001, that's pretty close. I had exactly 22 and 90 cents. So 22,001 was there. All right, but I haven't looked at my pay stubs yet, and actually my pay stubs are going to be the most important thing. So let's go back now. I'm done with my VOE. I've reviewed it. I'm going to go look at, nope, that's not what I want. Sorry. That's what I want. Okay. I apologize. It's a little small on my end. But so I'm now going to go to my income pay stubs. Oh, by the way, and just a note, I'm also going to kind of compare this to my W-2, but I'm not going to take the time to open up the W-2 now because it's pretty obvious that it compares, and I'm also going to check that as an underwriter later. But you, as a processor or loan officer, your W-2 for 2020 maps out to this 558. Okay. Oh my word, he's got 261 base, 87 bonus, and 209 other. Oh my word. Okay, I want his job. Okay, now moving right along. Let's go back up to the income pay stubs. And there they are. Okay. And Vince was kind enough to put the most recent one to the top, and I thank him very much. As an underwriter, can't tell you how appreciative we are when you do that. Okay. So now I'm into my pay stubs. Now here's where I'm probably gonna take some notes, and I'm probably gonna populate this into my my calc. All right, and then I'm gonna compare to see how that matches my BOE. So I have 126.93 an hour times 80 hours. All right. So the first thing I'm going to do right now is I'm going to compare this pay stub at 80 hours to this pay stub. Okay. This is 80 hours, regular hours, and that's 40 hours a week biweekly. All right. I'm also going to then just double back here very quickly to my BOE, and I just want to see if my BOE also guaranteed 80 hours, so I'm pretty confident now. Okay, it does not have average hours per week. That's okay, because I'm pretty confident that I have two pay stubs, they both show 80 hours, and my year-to-date supports 80 hours, so I'm not going to go any further on that one, right? I'm pretty good. All right, so now I have, as Mark pointed out, I have plenty of base income to qualify. All right, I'm going to pop, now this is as of, let me get my dates here. Okay, good. That's 12/24. And actually for my income, I'm going to want to use as your check date January 8th, beginning and end 12/21 to 1/3. I'm actually going to use this for my year to date. We know that this number is the same for both, but I'm going to get a better year to date. When we're in January and February, especially in January, our year to date doesn't mean very much, right? So I also, when I do my year to date, I like to use the prior year if I have it, and I do have a pay stub here from December. So I'm going to use this in my income calc. All right. So let me open up the income calc here. Oh, wrong one. That's my income calc. Let me open up his income calc. Okay. I'm going to shrink this sucker. Let's see here. And see if I can get it on the screen for you. Really small here. Hold on. All right, we'll just go up and down. That's what we'll do. We'll just go up and down. Okay. So I'm going to use, I have a smaller. Okay. There we go. Where did it go? Oh, it's over here. The one over here. Vince, can you pull that back on the screen? It's not on the screen. I don't know how it got over there. Thank you. I'm still not seeing it. Yeah. There you go. Thanks. Okay. I'll try to make sure I leave it here and I'll kill it for you. Oh, why is it disappearing? Thanks. I'm not seeing it. Are you? I don't see it. Okay. You know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to make it full and we'll go back and forth. Let's do that. Okay. We'll just go back and forth. Okay. So, the first thing I'm going to do with my income calc, let's see. That should drop it, right? Let's go over here. Yeah, we're getting a bad delay here. Hold on. There we go. Okay. So I'm going to use these dates. I'm going to use 12/7 to 12/20. So I'm going to go here. 12/20. Okay. And I'm going to double check this. You remember from last week's meeting or 2 weeks ago, we checked to make sure biweekly is correct, and it is. Okay. And then I'm going to pop in my pay period salary. And that pay period salary was 10,154.17, and it is consistent through both pay periods. And then I'm going to take the year-to-date from this pay stub, and you'll see now this is why I'm using this year-to-date on my income calc and not my VOE. I will sometimes do a second VOE, a second income calc, and I'll title it VOE or VOE data, just to show how I'm comparing the VOE data to the pay stub data. That's rare. Normally I'll just put a note in the bottom, but sometimes I will do that. Okay. So once I know my year-to-date, let's go to our year-to-date. Now keep in mind I'm using year-to-date base off of this pay stub. So let's click that. So I'm going to go to my regular because that's all I'm using. And my year-to-date base for this pay stub ending on 12/20 was 261,839.94. So I'm going to go 261,839.94. I'm going to hit enter, and it's going to spit out an average. And you'll see that the year-to-date base average for last year was 22,484. But you will also see that we are using $22,000.70, which is what I calculated earlier off my VOE. So this, for my purposes as an underwriter, $22,000.70 is what I am going to use for my underwrite. So I'm going to go back over here, and I'm going to just, it's just kind of stupid, but I'm going to just be consistent. I want this to match my income calc. 22,000.70 cents. Is that right? Yes. $22,000.70 a month. I'm going to go ahead and save this because I don't want to lose it. Okay. And I always save after I put my income in just because I've had too many times where somehow it got moved or changed. All right. So back to my income calc now. All right. Now I've got my year-to-date from my pay stub. I've got my base from my pay stub. It's supported by my pay stubs. It's supported by my VOE. Okay. I'm not going to calculate the hourly rate, although I probably could. I mean, I'll do it just for reference sake here. They did show it as an hourly rate on the pay stub, so it's kind of a double check, but let's go here. And then let's go over to the pay stub, and I believe they showed an hourly rate of 126.93, right? So just, for shits and giggles, 126.93. We'll just do this. And the average hours per week are 40. We know it's 80 per pay period. And it's just a double check, right? 2001. Now that's where Mark got his 2001-20. All right, which is absolutely fine. Okay. When you do that, you get this. When you actually punch in what he's actually paid, you get this. It doesn't matter. It's the same number. It's off by 50 cents. Okay. No problem. You can use either one. You can use this one or you can use this one. Now, what I'm going to do here, though, as an underwriter, and it wouldn't hurt to do it as a processor or a loan officer, all right, is I'm going to put a little note here since there is a VOE in the file. And let me just make sure. Is this coming down for me? Yes, there we go. I'm going to put, use to qualify. Okay. So, and it's so small I can't even see what I typed, but I think I put something else. QUALI. All right. I can't see that. It's so small, but that's right. All right. So pay stub biweekly base was used to qualify, supported by pay stub year-to-date average and POE base and year-to-date average. Bonus income shown not used to qualify. All right. So either one of these numbers is fine. 220120 or 22,070. It's 50 cents different. Either one is fine. Okay. Now, Mark, you said this was a little complicated and you had some questions. Did you?
No, it wasn't complicated. It was. I think this is the one where if you looked at the last pay stub of the year was the one that went to the following, went into January. So all I did for this pay stub was I looked at the pay stub that had the 200 whatever thousand. I just went to the hourly rate. My VOE I just did it with hourly. So it came to the $22,001. And then in my notes, I just said I'm only using base to qualify. And I didn't have the VOE at the time because I don't pull the VOEs. You guys do. So it was just, I just said I'm just using 126. It was easy, actually. It was very easy.
Yeah.
But I guess my question was if I needed to use bonus and whatever other, I think they also give stock. I think they give stock options too as a big income nut on his pay stub. If I had to use some of those things and I don't have a VOE, so I just have a W-2, a last pay stub of the year, and a first pay stub of this year, how am I doing that?
If you don't have a WVO, if you don't have a VOE, your pay stub shows. Let me see. If as an underwriter, if you're going, let's say can you mute yourself? I'm getting bad feedback. Thanks.
Yeah, hang on.
Okay, thanks. If you're, let's suppose over on the 1003 you had bonus income, okay? Because we don't see any, but we do see bonus, okay? Now, if I saw bonus here that was paid incrementally on the pay stub, I would underwrite the loan using your stated bonus income and then put the onus on you to get me a VOE to prove it, right? All right. Now, in here, though, I'm not sure I see any bonus income on the pay stub. I see, again, that's restricted. That's stock. All right. That's a different story. I can't use that to qualify. All right. Stock options. I assume those are options. Okay. So oh, well, there it is right there. That might be a bonus, but I don't know. Okay. But it might be. Okay. Notice this here said I have stock of 208, 87. Now, again, you're saying a hypothetical case where you would not have your VOE. If you did not have your VOE, you wouldn't have a clue what his usable bonus was.
Okay.
Right? So you wouldn't even have a clue because let's suppose there was like no bonus in 2018. All right? You don't even have a 2-year history. Okay? So you're pretty much screwed. So that's why it's very important that if you're going to use bonus or overtime or some other income that requires that 2-year history, that's why it's better to wait for that VOE. Okay. Now, if this came across my desk as an underwriter with no VOE, I wouldn't suspend the loan. I'd probably look at this and consider it a bonus. I'd divide it by 12 or whatever. All right. And then I'd put that in as my temporary bonus, and then I'd condition for a VOE. And obviously that VOE would have to support whatever I had here. But again, I as an underwriter try to give you the benefit of the doubt and then say, just go ahead and prove it to me, right? I don't want to give you a suspense. All right. The guy obviously makes a ton of money. He obviously makes some sort of a bonus, I assume. All right. So I'm going to do that. But so if you're trying to get an idea, if you needed to use this, you would probably use that 87,585. The stock options, unfortunately, are not usable They don't turn into money until you liquidate them, right? So, that's what I would do. If you had to get this into underwriting and you wanted to put it there, and then you hope the underwriter doesn't suspend you, I believe they're not supposed to suspend you if you at least have reason to believe that the income you're putting. Now, let's suppose you have 87,000 here and what might be a bonus. I assume it is, right? You have 87,000 here, and this is pretty much a year to year end, right? So 80,000 divided by 12, and let's suppose, so that's 7,250. All right, so I'm seeing evidence that there might be a bonus of about 7,250. But let's suppose on your 1003, you put bonus of $12,000 a month, right? And I needed that 12,000 to qualify, and I have no VOE. I'm going to suspend your loan. And you see why? Because I see no evidence from the pay stub that there's a bonus of $12,000 anywhere to be found.
Yep.
Okay. But if it's reasonable, I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt, and I'm just going to condition it out, right? All right. So, I mean, again, I'm always going to try to approve with conditions before suspending. Okay. So, if that helps, but this is a classic example. If you needed that bonus, and you needed a lot of it. Now, I'm just curious here. This was $87,000, and this is in 20. How does that compare to what I have now on the VOE? Let's see. And the bonus, there it is. It matches perfectly. There's this $87,000 bonus, okay? And I got it my last 2 years. It's declining. I might want a small, as an underwriter, let's put it this way. If I needed to use every penny of this, I'd want a little bit of a letter of explanation, because I'm tight. If I wasn't tight, I'm not going to ask for a letter of explanation because I don't really care. All right. If let's say it declined another, all right, this is what, a 15% decline, roughly, maybe 20%. If it declined another 20%, I might, and I still qualify, I don't care. All right. But you're probably going to get stipped for a letter of explanation for the decline in bonus. I suspect it probably had to do with COVID. Okay. So, it's not bad, only a 15 or 20% decline for COVID. So that's how I would go about it. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks.
Okay, so we have our income calc. All right, this is an income calc that I would this would be my underwriting income calc. I would put it in a file, and then I would just I would just go ahead. Oh, no, that's not my income calc. Sorry, I clicked the wrong one. I'm on the wrong screen. There's my income calc. All right, so I put this, and then as Vince showed you, I would go ahead and I would print this. Okay, and so we're just going to go file, and we're going to go print. Vince, where's your print? I'm not used to seeing this. Where's your? Oh, there it is. Got it. It's real small. All right, and I'm going to change this to. Come on. There you go. Oh, sorry. There's a big delay. There we go. Oh, it disappeared again. Encompass. Defolder. Where are we? There we are. And in this case, it can be, in your case, you can put branch income calc. So I would put underwriter income calc. We're going to pick it. We're going to say add to the file. And now there's a folder for underwriter income calc. It's not there out of the box. So I'm going to put this into unassigned for now. Oh, wonderful. Okay, let's do it again. And Vince says, sometimes I'll go a week without that happening, and it'll happen 4 times in a row. Thanks, Vince. It's a little faster on your end.
No worries, Keith. Okay.
There you go. And now Vince is going to create the underwrite. It's okay to put it in the underwriter income calc folder. The underwriter will know it's not theirs. If you can, Vince, if you can just create the underwriter income calc folder, there you go. And then drag it and drop it down.
Okay, we got everything now in here. Now, and thank you, Keith. Did you guys have any questions regarding that income calc that Keith had done for us on this file? No? Okay. So being that we have our income dialed in now, everything's accurate, we can go ahead and take a look at our assets now. So we have a clear idea of what we need to, source, if anything, right? So we're going to move our bank statements down here. Okay. Now, what I like to do is I go back to our file here, and I have this number right here, right, the 22,000. I'm really not going to worry about the 70 cents. So I'm just going to times that by 50%, right? And I got 11,000. So anything over this 11,000, I know, all right, I need to go source this, right? So I'm going to move this over to my other screen, and I'm going to move our file manager over here. And I'm just going to quickly review this, right? Just right off the bat, I'm taking a look at it. I don't see anything that draws my attention here. We do have certain underwriters that, for multiple deposits on the same day, they might lump that as one large sum deposit, and some of them don't do that. But even if I do take a look at our deposit on 12/21, it doesn't total our 11,000 threshold here, so we're okay with that, right? These are obviously our withdrawals. And when I look at the second bank statement that was provided, once again, I don't see anything that's over the $11,000 threshold. So we're good there, right? From a
Vince,
deposit.
can I ask real quick, what would you do if you had a $30,000, whatever this amount is, and you saw a $13,000 deposit, and you could back it out? I need $7,000 to close. What would you do there?
So typically when I have that particular instance, and look, does it happen on every file? No, but when it does pop up, I typically just get a letter of explanation indicating that the large sum deposit of XYZ entering XYZ bank account on XYZ day cannot be sourced. Sufficient funds documented elsewhere in the bank statement. Please back out, right, or something like that, to something of that effect. Have them sign and date it. Throw it in there in the letter of explanation bucket. Attach it to your bank statement condition. And the underwriter should be okay with it as long as the assets do check out and you do have enough in there. But that's typically how I'd handle backing out a large sum deposit.
Thank you.
No worries.
Hey, Vince, just one note on that, Vince.
Sure.
Fannie Mae used to require, as a rule, you could back out a deposit with a mandatory letter of explanation as to what it was for. Fannie changed that rule about, I guess, a year or so ago. And Fannie basically said, now you don't have to have the letter of explanation, and you can back it out. However, Fannie Mae also states clearly in their guidelines, I think Freddie does too, the lender, that's us, is responsible to take responsible measures to ensure that that large deposit is not an undisclosed loan. So what I do as an underwriter, if it might be a large deposit, but if it doesn't look large enough to be a loan of any kind, I'll just back it out. I won't even get a letter. I'll just back it out, right? But if it's of any significant size, Fannie requires us to do something to ensure that it's not a loan. And I can tell from experience that what Fannie will accept is the old letter from the borrower that they used to require. Okay. a letter from the borrower explaining what it was for. So let's hypothetically say there was a $30,000 deposit in there, or even a $15,000 or $20,000 deposit that we're going to back out that we cannot source. All right, I, as an underwriter, I'm still going to want a letter of explanation signed by the borrower telling me what that was for. And most of all, what I'm looking for is to see that it's not an undisclosed loan. So I just want to bring that up.
Thank you, Keith. Next, we took a look at our assets here, and we pretty much have everything dialed in. There's no large sum deposits. We're not backing anything out, right? So I'm going to move this over to my second screen. Remember I showed you guys in the show all with the VOE? You could do the exact same thing with your verification of deposits here. So I click on that VOD section, and I just take a look at the assets. Now, as we can see, the assets are a little off here, and we're missing the account number, right? So I go ahead, I move our balance over. I see we got 46,707.31. I'm not really concerned about the 31 cents. To be honest with you, I'm not really a big stickler on it. I usually don't include it. You can if you'd like. Whoops. You can if you'd like. I normally don't, to be honest with you. It's on discretion, essentially. I don't think the 31 cents is going to make or break anything, but I digress. Next, we want to put the last four of the account number. I do last four. I don't know. That's what I normally do. Some people put in the full account number. I just do the last four. So I'm going to put in the last four here. So I got 4208. And obviously this is a checking account. We don't have any other assets in the file, so this is ready to go now. Everything's accurate. I usually don't put in the address. I just put in the bank name and call it a day. I haven't got hit on that before, saying, hey, you forgot your address for the bank. I've never gotten hit on that. So I just leave the name on there, and that's it. That's the end of it. Next, let's go and run our services. Mark, I saw that you ran DU already, but I'm going to show them just, me running it for the demonstration, part of it. We're going to go to our DU, submit for DO ePass. I'm going to submit. I'm going to check through that one. Okay, this is already filled out, so we're just going to hit submit here. All right, we got our approved eligible. We can scroll down. We'll see we have our appraisal waiver. You can go and review this as much as you like here to see if there's like a 1-year tax return or a 2-year tax return, stuff like that. You can really get into the meat and potatoes of the findings themselves. I don't always do that, especially for a slam dunk loan like this. I really don't even bother because I pretty much know what I'm going to get from an underwriter when they do review it.
Sorry.
Then I'm going to run LP on this as well. We want to make sure that we are running both, DU and LP on all files. The underwriters are supposed to do it, but it's always good to help them out as well. It is a requirement for a post-closing perspective. God forbid something happens post-closing. You need to switch things around. Fannie has different guidelines than Freddie. So if you're able to fix something by doing a simple program switch or something like that, we're able to do so. You cannot pull, Fannie or DU rather, and LP after a loan is cleared to close. They want that case number or that file number assigned by Freddie or Fannie prior to it being cleared to close. So just important. It's a good habit to get into to pull that at the beginning of the file. This one here, I know this is not going to run without being addressed. So we're going to click on that error message. This is probably a single family detached. And I'm going to go ahead and click continue on it. All right, we're going to view our result. Usually takes a few moments for everything to come in here. All right, so we have our feedback. We have an approved eligible here, but as you can see, we don't have our property inspection waiver. No big deal. Obviously, we have it on our DU result. We're going to use that as our initial branch submission findings for the underwriter, right? But we can leave this in the file. You guys can do one of two things. You can either leave it in the underwriting bucket itself, which if I scroll down here, I think is it this one? Yeah. This one, you can either leave it in this bucket or you can just drag and drop into the trash bin, either or. I think either is acceptable, but as long as we have the both of them are present in the file, we're good with that, right? So here's the one that we ran today. And obviously you have that bucket already in the e-folder itself, the initial branch submission. So we're just going to go ahead and drag and drop that result that we pulled into that initial branch submission bucket. So once again, just click and scroll up. And then same thing here. I know this is credit report here. We're going to attach that as well, just so they have a full here. Okay, now as you guys can see, we do have that appraisal waiver here. We still have that required item on our checklist to go ahead and provide an appraisal, right? Clearly, we don't need one. Barring any setbacks and us losing that PIW, we don't need one, right? So we can go ahead and remove that by going to our 1003. And then where it says subject property value, right underneath it, it says AUS property inspection waiver received. Once we have that result in, we're going to go ahead and check that off. And then when we go back to the processing services manager, you'll see that appraisal requirement is no longer there, right? Lastly, we're just going to button up everything else. Lastly, we have our credit invoice, right? So let's go to Universal Credit's website. I know this is a little bit of a pain to do, guys. It takes a little extra time. You got to go to a website, go find an invoice and what have you. It's just important to have all that stuff documented. So I would definitely get into the habit of doing that on all your files. It does take, a couple extra minutes for you to do it, but it definitely is very helpful. So here we have our credit profile that was created. Here's our invoice. We're going to print. Obviously, we're going to print to encompass. Label it. We have a folder ready for it, so we're just going to print to that folder. Okay, we have that in there. Now we have a bunch of required tasks that are required to do before we submit this file. And obviously we're missing our homeowners insurance policy here, so we're not going to quite submit just yet. But we do have some tasks that we can check off on. So to go ahead and check off on those tasks, we can go ahead and go to our submittal milestone, and you'll see these tasks right here, right? So we already ordered our transcripts, we ordered our flood, and this is just
Wait, the deck page isn't in there?
Let's see. No.
Oh, what a loser.
I don't see it in here either, right? I don't see it in the bucket. So we are missing that homeowners insurance policy. But once we go back to our processing services manager and we take a quick look at everything that we've done, that's the only thing that we're missing, right? To submit this guy into underwriting, that's the only thing that we're missing. Once we have zeros across the board, all we got to do is just hit submit to underwriting, save the file, and that's it. It goes into submittal milestone. Opening team moves it into underwriting, and then the underwriter picks it up when it's available. And that's it. Did you guys have any questions regarding any of this that we have gone over?
Hey, Vince, as an underwriter, if you want to get that into underwriting, I mean, I would put a blank Word docket. I put a blank Word doc in there.
You can. I mean, I wouldn't be outside of that either. I mean, look, I'm sure the guy will probably get it to you relatively quickly. So if you guys do
He got it to me. I just missed it.
no worries. So you don't have to worry about it. But yeah, something like that. I mean, I would normally, throw that in there with a template, but we're just trying to make sure that we're getting all, documents in a timely fashion and we have everything present. Because it's very easy to forget things, right? Like, I don't want you guys to be in a habit of, putting template folders in a file, forgetting about it, and then having an underwriter review it and it's not there, right? So that could be a pay stub, that could be W-2s. It's always good force of habit to make sure that everything is in the file. It's a complete file. Because I know we all get busy, right? But did you guys have any other questions though regarding this? I mean, obviously this file is probably ready to go, being that Mark has this homeowners insurance policy, so it's a matter of just throwing it in there. But did you guys have any questions regarding the income calc or any of the processing tutorial that we went over? No?
Hey Vince, if I could just say for who's ever on from my team, you could see how much work an opening processor has to do. There's a lot of stuff here, right? They're working hard. So the more we can give them, the better we could do at the intake for them. The more they'll be able to put in per day, and the better they'll go in. And they're really trying to get better each week at getting this stuff, the integrity in. So if you can make your integrity with your